Hey, Will.
I'm Steve.
Okay, you're Steve.
Oh, hi.
I'm waiting for Will. It was blocking my view of your face there.
That's
Pastor
okay.
That's my wife, Amy.
Hello.
Hi, Amy.
Good to see you.
Good to be seen.
Yes. We're just waiting for Will. And we'll see. I'm looking at my emails. Okay, you've joined me. So I've got email up to make sure that he comes on board. So good to have you, Steve. Welcome, everybody, to Faith, Family, and Friends with Pastor Ralph, my wife, Amy, here in the bowels of our church, in the basement at our church office. We've got a couple of special guests tonight. Steve Rivera, he's Zooming us from California, am I correct?
Yes, Southern California.
Southern Cal. You guys have a lot of rain down there. Is that the part of the state that's suffering from the floods and all the rains?
We're having a lot of rain, but I'm not suffering from the floods.
Okay, well, that's good.
My daughter did get stuck in the snow and got snowed in with her school.
Oh, goodness.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that was fun. That was fun for her. She didn't want to come back.
Of course.
And I see Will is on. I'm not sure if he can hear us. I can't see him, but Will Ackerman's connecting. Steve, by the way, folks, is an accomplished composer and pianist. He's produced several albums, and he and Will actually worked together on producing a couple, I think, albums that Steve did. Will is a Grammy-nominated and Grammy Award-winning guitarist. You could say new age, folk, ambient, acoustic.
Beautiful.
Both you guys.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Unbelievable music.
Listen all day.
All day. And we have been the last few months since we've connected with you and Will. Will, if you could just hit your unmute sign. He may just want to do the audio. I don't know if you can hear us, but the mute button is on. I can see your name, but let's see if he's. Are you there, Will? His wife, Susan, I think his wife, he mentioned she had to help him get onto Zoom. So while we're waiting for him, Steve, let me ask you, how you got started. Is music always been a love of yours since childhood? And maybe if you could share how that started, the hunger, thirst for listening to music and becoming involved with playing instruments, and then even the whole world of composing, and maybe what musical influences followed you in your life, even especially in your early life, because I think that's where a lot of us, big impressions, whether it's music or painting or writing, any of the creative muses, there's somebody that has kind of sewed into our lives. And there's Will.
Will.
How you doing, buddy? We got you on.
Now turn on. You got it. You have to turn on on the bottom left of the screen. It should say mute or unmute.
Yeah.
And clicking. Okay, there it is.
There you go.
All right.
Had to have
well,
had to have the visual first, I guess.
you
Yeah,
got
this
it on.
sort of thing. My wife would have had this all done properly, but
Yeah. Will, you're
Just-
zooming us from the Green Mountains in Vermont?
not very green.
No,
No, not right now.
not green here
No.
either.
Not green here in Michigan either.
I mean, this is the time of year where I wonder now, why was it you left California?
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, February, that frankly, the only time that I think that is February. But
it gets old.
yeah, right now it's like put on big boots and head south. That's the plan. Just keep walking until
Yeah.
it gets better.
I was born and raised in Maine, and so we had not 4 seasons, but 5.
Mud.
Our 5th season was the mud season, and I'm sure that's probably true.
Oh yeah, well, and we live in our part of the world here, it's all dirt roads. We live on a dirt road.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah, so exciting.
It sounded like Steve just put a gun to his head. What was that? I don't know.
We just got took off.
Steve,
No.
come back. I
No,
love
no, no.
you. Good. I'm glad. Good. I'm glad that wasn't a 45 to the head there.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not today.
Well, we kind of gave an intro before you got on. And I just want to say it again to our audience listeners.
I was saying all this witty shit, and now you're saying it didn't even make it. All right. I've used up all the witty stuff. All right, to
I
hell with
gotta
it.
tell you, you know what made me want to have you on was your self-deprecating bio on the website. I mean, I knew you did some work, and we actually had a couple pianists whose work you had produced at, I believe Wyndham, maybe in Imaginary Roads, I think, because you sold your share in Wyndham Hill a while ago. But then I got on the website, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's funny. I love it. You described yourself as less skillful and more lazy with your talent. I don't know how true that may
Yeah,
be.
no, that's about right.
You're
That's about
honest. You're honest, but yet at the same time, you've been blessed, and
Yeah.
I just want to thank the two of you. And again, I said this to Steve when we first come on. A lot of us that listen to pop rock and classic rock, and I've been a radio DJ for years, did CCM radio, and now we're doing these Zoom interviews. But we don't avail ourselves enough. I'm just confessing this. Not that I feel you guys are going to absolve me, but acoustic folk, ambient, and new age music. It's wow. I mean, it's healing to the soul. And we can say that and it sounds maudlin, but it really is true. When I've gone to school lately, I've just put some of your stuff on. I put on my little Spotify, and whether it's your guitar work, Will, some of your albums and your most recent releases, Positano being one of them, or Steve's piano work. By the time I get to school, I'm having to dry my eyes because it goes somewhere in my soul, and it does something. I can't put a word to it, but it's healing. And I think a lot of us need to avail ourselves more of that. Obviously, there are a number of people doing it because
look, the first thing is it's real.
Yeah. Yes.
No, nobody's trying to. I mean, when Wyndham Hill started, I was just a guy. I was a general contractor. I was building houses.
Yep.
And I fell off a roof, and then I decided to record a little bit of music. And when the record pressing plant said that they had a minimum order of 300, I basically decided, well, to hell with it. There's no way I'm ever going to sell 300 records. A bunch of friends jumped in and said, well, here's a bit of money, and go make a record. But really, I think the whole story of Wyndham Hill is just its sincerity. I mean, nobody was trying to make money. Nobody was, all it was of the heart. And, having the great fortune of having your first cousin be Alex DeGrassi, that was simple. And meeting George Winston in Santa Monica when we did a concert, Alex and I, at McCabe's guitar shop, it all just fell in. It was meant to be, I think. Maybe that's a little pretentious, but it just happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, even the story about the gentleman who gave you your first guitar when you were 12, that you later literally bumped into him, and then he helped you along the way years later. And that's quite the story too.
That's one of the craziest stories of my life too. That this next door neighbor kid that you had looked up to. He was a few years older. He was the captain of the football team. He had a band in high school, and he was the first guy to put a guitar in my hand. And then to have just released Turtles Navel, and I brought maybe 10 in to put on the desk at the Plowshare bookstore on University Avenue. And the thing was actually selling a little bit. Big surprise to me. But that I turned out of there and walked up University Avenue, and there's Michael Kilmartin. It's like, Michael, you gotta, I gotta give you a few of these. And then he called me, I think, next day or 2 days later, and he said, "Will, this is actually a really, really good record. Can I have 10 of them?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course. I mean, I had a pressing of 200, so I could give you another 100 easily." And he called me back only 3 days later, and he said, "I sent this out to He said, I'm the head of radio promotion for Fantasy Records. And at that time, Creedence Clearwater Revival was what he was promoting, which made him in that moment probably the most influential radio promotion guy in the world.
Yeah.
And so he sent this thing out, and he said, 8 of the 10 stations are playing it, and 5 are listing it as heavy airplay. and you need to get on the phone and thank these guys. And without, getting into the 10-minute version, but I did call Kazam Radio in Seattle, and John Kurtzer wasn't there, the music director, but the assistant music director, Jeff Hyman, and he went crazy. He said, this record is going completely crazy. What are you doing on Saturday? And I'm like, nothing in particular. And he said, well, look, come on, we'll do a concert. We'll do a concert. And it's like, I've never been paid a penny to play for anybody in seats.
Wow.
And so Degrassi, who's part of the building crew, and I get in a car and drive up to Seattle. We get to the station. Everybody's frantic. You're late. And for what? It's the afternoon. I don't understand what the hell you're talking about. And so we just follow, wherever Jeff's driving and get there. And he said, grab the guitar and run out there. And I ran on, it was kind of dark in there. And I ran to where I was supposed to go, apparently. And there I was on stage at the Seattle Opera House, sold out, 2,300 people. This is the first concert I had ever given in my life. I mean, the first concert you play is sold out at the Seattle Opera. I mean, how could you can't process that. But I in those days I only had one guitar, so I did all the tunings. What was I thinking? Every song, the catalog has a different tuning. I mean, I've lost hundreds of them, but so I'm sitting there tuning between songs. I've never been up before that, and I'm telling jokes. It turns out that I'm actually really, really funny. That sort of became my pattern. From then on out. But in the car with me was Alex Degrassi, and I said to the people, look, I don't know any more music with that. And I went into standard tuning and put in a piece of paper and started playing Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter. And that they thought it was wonderful, keep doing that. Anyway, Degrassi walks out and just kills him, right? I mean, he's Degrassi. He's playing children's lullaby and slow circle and just crazy stuff. And he got off stage and said, yeah, maybe I would like to do an album afterwards. So I think that would be good. Let's do that. So anyway, that's all the crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I had a friend who wanted me to ask you this. Did you really get the late Michael Hedges to sign a contract with Windham Hill on a napkin at a nightclub?
Absolutely true. Upstairs, there's a little coffee house upstairs at the Varsity Theater. Randy Luigi ran the joint. And Randy actually became the manager for Michael. But he said, I'm walking by, and he said, you got to hear this kid upstairs. And it's like, I know, I gotta go. I've got to, and then he starts bargaining. Well, okay, you could have coffee and cake. And it's like, and ultimately, he said, you get a dinner and all that, and free attendance to the movies. And I said, okay, all right, I'm up. And I go upstairs to this little coffee house room, and there's Michael. And, and there was nothing, you can't be rational at that point, because your brain doesn't understand what the hell you're seeing and hearing. Yeah. I mean, he really was one of the great innovators of the guitar ever, period. And I started writing what was, kind of what I can remember of a Windham Hill contract on a napkin and handed it to him, and he signed it. I said, okay, great, we've got a deal.
It's amazing. Wow. So how do you move? And then I want to talk about,
you got to talk to Steve. He's smarter than I am.
No, you're doing great.
He's a hell of a lot better looking too. So.
You're playing in those fortuitous times of your first concert sold out. How do you move from that to, and I already kind of jumped it by asking the question about Michael Hedges, but to producing other people's work, and which one has been more, I guess, pleasing or gratifying, or maybe they're both equally so? Because being able to see somebody's work and get it out there certainly must be encouraging and gratifying, to promote people and their stuff and get it out there. And maybe as a thanks to those who've helped you along the way when you had these little bump-ins with key people in your life. How did that segue?
Is there a question in there somewhere?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. How did one segue transition to the other? Where you decided, I'm going to build a studio And now you built the second one in the mountains there with all the mud there, right? And looking back, what, 30 years, going on 40 of
Well,
music? Yeah.
70, more like 40. Yeah.
Yeah. What's that been like? From, the more pressures with the production as opposed to just going on the road or cutting your own work. You do some of that still, I know. Positano was released not too long ago, and that was nominated for a Grammy. So, and you did Brothers too, which is, would love to talk about that. How you three of your friends got together and did that one a
Yeah.
Grammy. Not,
And I would say very quickly that the title Brothers is utterly apt. I mean, they're my two closest friends in the world. But anyway, I still don't know what the question is, but the answer is certainly yes. Forgive me, as someone who hasn't slept in 3 years, I am not very clever. So, I look at myself in the picture and it's like, it looks vaguely like that Ackerman guy, but the rest of you, yeah, you look good. And so,
I guess to make others look good with their work and being able to see and hear it like you did, Michael, and that whole calling, I guess you could say, as opposed to along with your own individual work on the road, cutting your own stuff.
well, it just had to be, the right place and the right time. And
yeah, right.
And I think really what made it work was that nobody, myself included, would have thought that you could make a living recording this sort of music, which seemed incredibly peripheral to me even.
Yeah.
But the fact is we filled a niche that didn't exist until then. I've never been a big embracer of the title or name New Age, but whatever, because for decades it was just called Windham Hill Music, and I was very happy with that. But then people were seeing that, oh, you actually can make money doing this, and then the major labels got in, jumped in, created their own new agey labels, and then it got kind of watered down. But we had fun and we made some great music.
Cool.
You got to talk to Steve. He's a lot smarter than him.
So segue into Steve. How did you guys connect? How long ago? And then the question, because Steve called me on the landline earlier, and talk about his musical journey, maybe going back to that and your influences. But how did you obviously knew about Will's studio, and did you connect with him or he call you, or how'd that all work?
Well, okay. I had been playing before during the late 90s, and I actually played for years at Nordstrom when they had a pianist back then.
Cool.
And I had self-produced my own album back then, and actually had gotten corporate at Nordstrom's, because when I first started working there, if someone had an album, they would just sell it right there at the piano to customers. And I thought, that's insane. And so I went through corporate. They could take my album to any cash register. I was able to get some of the songs on the Muzak system that played at all the Nordstroms nationwide.
Cool.
And then in about 2001, I had completely stopped playing piano. All the way up until about, I would say, 2010, and didn't really touch the piano. And a friend had asked me to join their little lollipop kind of band, just like little rock kind of like. The lead singer was even called Superstar, and so I played keys for that. And then I had another friend ask me to join some death metal band.
Wow, what a switch.
Yeah, and so I play heavy synth, and I used to come out in a cloak and everything. And so then I started playing a lot more.
Geez, if I'd known all this, I wouldn't have signed you.
I know.
Clark Kent, Superman. Like,
I've never heard half of this. All right, go ahead.
great. This is good.
And so I was getting ready to do my next another album. And I realized, okay, I need to figure out the commercial viability of my album. And, you know, I've always been taught, thankfully, that you want to be around successful people in the industry that you want to be in. And you want to surround yourself with those type of people. And obviously, you know, I knew Windham Hill Records. And so I started researching it a lot. And I thought, you know, because who better on the planet living to produce a piano album? And without a doubt, it was Will Ackerman. And I told Will Ackerman that, you know, he was very emphatic about on his website. He says, "Don't send me any of your material. I'm not going to listen to it." He says it nicer. I'm paraphrasing.
I'm not sure. I don't know if it was nicer, actually.
Go ahead.
And so, anyways, there was the opportunity that I had a conversation with him, and I think you know, I told him I'm an artist. I've already had an album out, and I want to produce my next album. It would mean the world to me to get your input and guidance and direction. And that's how Will and I first started what I think has flourished into beyond just a producer-artist relationship, you know. And I would consider Will one of my dear friends.
That's great. Wow. Awesome. So you found your niche from bubblegum pop to, you know, heavy metal to whatever we want to call it, acoustic, folk, ambient. Labels are labels, right? I mean,
Windham Hill. Just call it Windham Hill.
Yeah,
That's
why not? Yeah,
Sure.
the sound of that, obviously. But when you guys, maybe you can both answer this, and we'll go back to Will here. When a new piece comes into your mind or your heart or emotions or both, describe the process of what that's like. Do you get the harmony and melody first? I mean, I've asked this question to people who, with songs and lyrics, what comes first? It's like the chicken and the egg thing. Typically, it's been more of the music part with songs with the lyrics and all. What is it like for you guys, and mostly instrumentalists, for the most part? Because the music, both parts, the piano, the guitar, Will, your finger style, you popularized the finger style method of acoustic guitar playing. It's evocative. It really draws something out of us that we didn't know was there. What's
the process?
Yeah, what's that like?
Well, the one thing that I know for a fact, and I've talked to all the guys at Guitar Player Magazine and Frets and all that, essentially every song I've ever written has been in a different open tuning. I mean, you know, there are guitarists who work in open tunings, but it's usually, you know, open D, or there's a handful of sort of well-known open tunings. But I have literally created a new tuning for every song, the only exception being Ann's Song and Hawk Circle, which share the same tuning. And, you know, that's, I mean, and somewhere along the line, and actually only fairly recently, because at this age, sort of the camera goes back and you're trying to figure out what the hell you did. But, you know, why did I go to this extreme? And finally, and literally within the last year, I've come to understand that by doing that, I have completely eliminated the frontal lobes. Thought is not involved whatsoever. I don't know where a chord is.
Yeah.
I'm only discovering as I go. And so the only thing I have going for me is heart. And you know, again, I swear I've been as mystified by this lunacy as anyone, but that I think is the answer, is that I have really just lived in a world of emotion.
Yeah. So what we're feeling is actually what happened, the genesis or initiation of what you felt as you came to the chair or the table, so to speak, to, you know, tune your guitar and create from that standpoint. Too much thought gets in the way, but allowing the feelings and emotions to guide you and the creation of all those pieces through the years. It's a neat.
Yeah, well, it's important that you don't give me credit for a distant, objective understanding of that. I've only now coming to the point where I feel like I need to understand what the hell happened.
Yeah.
But really, I live in a very binary world. Yes, no. That's my whole
Yeah,
life.
nothing in between.
This works, it doesn't. This works, it doesn't.
Mhm.
And it's not some vast, brilliant concept that I work in.
Yeah.
It's just, no, somebody like Steve comes along, breaks your heart. He's telling the truth. Look, Keith Jarrett, man, listen to that guy play, and he has heart, thank God.
Mhm.
But there are so many players who are in love with themselves
Yeah.
for just the technique.
Mhm.
And I really don't give a damn
Yeah.
about technique. I mean, I love it when it exists.
Right.
That's great, but
Mhm.
that's a bonus.
Yeah.
If there isn't something being said that is honest and immediate,
Impact.
then the hell with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. It's a good perspective. How about you, Steve? What is your process like when you sit down and at the piano and you can look back and think about the different pieces that you've played and the albums you've made, whether with Will or on your own. Is it sort of like Will's? It comes to you in the moment, or is something that's been kind of echoing and reverberating in your soul for a week or a day or a month?
Well, absolutely. We'll definitely give thanks to Will,
Mhm.
because now I've come into a place where when I do have a song idea in my head, or like I'm washing the dishes and I have this like little melody that just comes to me and it's like dun dun dun, and then exploring that,
Mhm.
I can't even imagine, and I'm sure Will can validate this too, is how many ideas or like melody come to my head and I don't do anything, and then I go to the piano hours later and totally forget it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Might be
gone.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what 100% Will has really helped me in a way that I was just like my music. I describe my music as a restrained simplicity that's emotionally moving.
Mhm. Okay.
And being able to not be so rushed
Mhm. Yeah.
in creating something. I'm not just trying to have a starting point and an ending point.
Mhm.
Right.
A lot of that has to do with everybody in their daily life.
Mhm.
In our daily life, we're so busy
Yeah.
and we're so occupied with so many things going on,
Mhm.
that we're rushed. We're doing this, we're doing that, and there's if you're like me, if I'm thinking about 3,682 different things, all with subcategories, and I'm trying to compartmentalize everything,
Yeah.
right? So knocking that all off the table
Yes.
and just being in the moment,
Mhm.
and letting things breathe.
Yeah. That's
You
good.
know, Will talked about technique, and yes, foundation, understanding is fantastic. But being able to just pour yourself, and this is where I mean, what Will created is a space
With a
for
sweet.
artists to pour themselves and their emotions.
Mhm.
And Will, he knows. I mean, was going in the studio with Will the first time. He says, "Nope, nope, nope. Okay, stop right there. Let's go back. Why are you rushing immediately to the next phrase?
Mm.
I want to hear that.
Yeah.
Leave that open.
Play it out. Yeah.
Leave it open."
Right.
And that really, like I said, it really tied into what I try to do in my personal life, which is just be present.
Yeah. That's good.
Just being present and being right now. And so, like Will said, when he is open tuning and he's present, he's in that moment immediately right there. There's nowhere else he has to be. He's not trying to get from point A to point B.
Mhm.
He's not moving a pile of dirt from here to over here. with his headphones on his tractor, but we won't talk about that. Um, he's opening up a space
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
to express whatever's in here.
Yeah, right.
And you listen to any of Will's artists, and that's what he accomplished. That's what he pulls from them.
Mhm.
You know, and he knows that. Well, you know that. And you may, with all the humility in the world, but you give artists the guidance and direction to be able to do that.
That's great.
And that's evident. That's evident in any of the music you listen to
Yeah.
from Will.
A space for grace, right? For,
Absolutely.
to be able to create and perform, but not just for those that have worked in the business, but let me just, on behalf of those who are listening to the music and not just to promote you guys' work out there to those who are watching our show tonight. I mean, that's a benefit, but to encourage, maybe even exhort folks to take advantage of the kind of music, acoustic, folk, ambient, what do you want to call it again, new age, so that you don't have to think about a message song. Sometimes, and even as a preacher, I'll say this, I'm tired of messages. I just want to chill with my faith, right? So music helps me to chill with my emotions and find out where what I'm feeling, let that brokenness come to the surface, or that joy and tears flowing. I don't know why they're flowing, but it touches something. I have a poignant example of this, and maybe you guys know Molly Madison, Jay Hunger. They wrote much of the Civil War music. Ken Burns did the documentary. Well, their song, help me out here, Ashcon Farewell, which was written for, they did the voiceover of Sullivan Blues' last words to his wife on the battlefield. It is so powerful. But before even hearing the voiceover, I heard the song from a fourth grade teacher who played it one day for kids. And I'm in there as an ed tech assistant helping the kids one-on-one. And I start crying. And I'm like, I gotta hide my tears. This kid's gonna think something's wrong. And there was no words. I'm like, what the heck? And then I read online that people who had heard this tune had to pull off the side of the road because they were crying so hard. And I thought maybe it was an older tune, because it sounds like an older tune. Wow. And so I think that's what your kind of music does. And I know there are others who do it well too. And to me, it's like, okay, Lord, a rebuke to me or a correction, say, you need to be listening to more of this stuff. Because I love music of all kind, but like you said, Steve, we're all busy. We've got 101 things going on, irons in the fire. Maybe it's time to take one of those irons out, throw it away. So those of us who create, whether it's on the guitar and piano, with words, writing, that's what we do. But yeah, it's just a lovely emotional correction.
Over the years, it's not a flood of them, but you get these incredibly heartfelt letters in the old days, phone calls, emails,
Cool.
that their children were born listening to my music, that their wedding, was to my music, and that people chose to leave this earth listening to my music, which is, there's no greater honor that I could imagine, that I would hear from, the wife of a man who passed away and who'd asked to spend, just with my music for the last 2 days of his life. You can't,
That's more rewarding than anything, any Grammy, any accolade.
Yeah. What, I'm literally chills in this, what an incredible and almost inconceivable honor. You just, one of the things I feel as I get older is just this expansive gratitude. Earlier on in life, you're running through it and the rest of it. Now it's just this.
Yeah.
Thank you for so many things. In my own life too, have been through 2 marriages that were okay. But ultimately you learn about yourself. And then when you finally make a choice about being married, you have some chance of making it work. The fact that, you know, I've been with Susan now for decades, but I can say in complete honesty that I fall more in love with her every week. You know, of course, we're at each other's throats on occasion.
Yeah.
Who isn't? But you know, I'm 72. They've discovered this gene in me, which does not bode well for my longevity. And I'm going through a terrible fatigue phase, which frankly is not a phase. It's going to be the rest of my life. And which has been a hell of a challenge. Even through that, I am never far away from gratitude.
That's awesome.
That's what fills my life. And I know that as I lay dying, I am going to feel that I was the luckiest guy that ever walked on this planet.
That's a great response. And it keeps us all from the shallowness of the kind of life where it's all about me or all about what I can produce instead of what comes to me.
Right. No, perfect. That's exactly right. Yeah.
Wow. And they can say, well, it's age, it makes you more reflective, but I think the variety of experiences and the genuine and sincere ability to look back and say, wow, thank you, God. Thank you for the people in my life who made me who I am, you know, brought me to where I'm at.
And yeah, well, again, what compensates for, you know, the downhill ride is gratitude.
Yeah, it's very true. Wow. Steve, any thoughts on that? As you heard Will share, you're not as old as he is, or I am. I don't know. I'm not going to mention.
It's not a contest, exactly.
Yeah, thankfully, I'm not that old yet.
And what's winning? Which way is winning? I don't know.
Yeah, I know, that's true.
You know, you know, we talked briefly on the phone, and Will knows this too. I think anybody that has ever talked to me, even at just in passing, I absolutely attribute everything in my life, whether it's my music, my family, my daughters, anything, is a direct result of grace. Grace being unmerited favor, unequivocally. I've gone through some horrific things, and I've had people that tell me you need to write a book about it. Will.
You continue, but I'll have a comment.
And it really, the things that I went through, you know, there's a saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. But going through all of the things that I've experienced, and the circumstances and situations and life things that I've gone through, I realized this is just for me. Everybody else has their own unique story and their own unique voice. But for me, and maybe some people can relate to this, I know that if I put a 300-pound person on this horse and I run the horse 10 miles this way and 10 miles back, just by the very mechanics of how the horse is created, by the cell structure, by everything that is about that horse, when I put the 300-pound person on him and run him 10 miles that way and run him 10 miles back, he can't help but drink. And the circumstances and the situations and the things that I've gone through have been that person on top of me that when I got to the water, I couldn't help but drink.
Great analogy. Yeah.
You know,
I like that, Steve. That's great.
And the people in my life, I am in awe at the opportunities that I've been afforded. You know, I'm ready to do my next album with Will. We were actually just talking about that. And you know, I'm almost done with a full production musical that I'm writing.
Cool.
And it's just,
That's great. Wow.
even in life, there's a huge musical theater saying that it takes a village.
Yeah,
And even in life, it takes a village. We need each other.
that's right.
You know, we need each other. And I know that Will's had instrumental people in his life, and I know the love that he and Susan share, and that is vital to Will.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and those human interactions that we have with each other,
Gotta hold on to it. Yeah.
those are vital to us. I mean, that's
Yeah,
we're not alone in this.
that's right. Wow. You know,
Hey, Steve, I just want to say one thing. I recently found the picture of you in that Mexican restaurant that was on Santa Monica Boulevard, and it's
Next to
on,
the tire
it's on
shop?
the desktop. It's on the desktop. So you're there. I don't know how long you're going to stay there, but you're there.
You're there.
Oh, what you were sharing reminded me of a couple things. Where earlier, go back to earlier, you said something about being. I just want to be is what you said. And somebody once said this. I think it really puts it in a sort of a pithy, kind of a memorable way. It was an author, a little study that I was doing with some of the guys here at fellowship, that God made us not human doers, but human beings. So it's more about being who He's created you to be, living to those moments and the way He's made you, the skills, talents, treasures, the connection with people, than doing. And if we can remember that, excuse me, we'll be less likely to screw it up. And have better impact.
That's what I've been missing this whole time.
And the other thought was, and this was a song years ago, it's a soulish, I think it may be a black gospel song, I don't know. If it had not been for the Lord by my side, tell me where would I, looking back as you both were reflecting and being thankful, as you said, well, where would I be? Where would I be? Really? I mean, you know, and despite our brokenness and our screwed up decisions that we've all made, somehow it comes around full circle. So yeah, we're thankful. So you guys are working on this new project. Now, does that things with technology now, you maybe don't have to meet in person as much as used to be back in the day? And how does this work out? When's the due date? I should say.
Well, I know. Well, and I'll just touch this just real quick.
Yeah.
Will and I are just in the discussion infancy phases, but I know Will, especially through that. What was that happened over the last 3 years? Something
Oh yeah,
that
thing.
affected the planet.
Right. Yeah.
I can't remember, but
Yeah.
Will had to transition to some foreign Zoom meetings and doing things over virtually, and he can talk about that.
Yeah. Sure. Go ahead, Will. Yeah.
So everybody here been through COVID?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't
Susan and I just fell at its feet about 3 weeks ago. We were coming back from Belize and got to Miami, and the temperatures went to 103.7 and 104.1. So it was a great room and a beautiful view, and we got room service, and it was actually one of the most relaxing
What you
vacations
gotta
I've
do,
had in a long
right?
time. I loved it. I just thought it was great. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I know when we got it, the first thing I smelled was soybeans, and you lose your
We
smell and
lost the
taste.
smell, and then they were.
I've heard this. I didn't have
Harvested
that.
soy.
I didn't have that symptom.
Yeah, we did for a little while. That was it.
We didn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't too bad.
I did.
Huh? I was going to say, if they gave you the smell of creme brulee, I would be like, cool. I'll stay there for a couple of months.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
It was weird when I did have COVID about a year and a half ago, 2 years. I was sick, but I was making some grilled sourdough, right? And I always grill instead of toast. It just tastes better.
Yeah.
And I thought I started smelling the sourdough. I'm like, is the sourdough bad or something?
Yeah.
And I had a burnt metallic smell
Mm,
when I had the COVID.
yeah.
And it was just like almost like a burnt metallic, burnt copper smell.
Uh-huh.
But I never lost my taste, thankfully.
That's good. That's good.
There must be like 1,050,000 different things,
Very,
like
yeah.
Very,
symptoms of COVID. I mean, everybody's
For
got
real.
a completely different story, you know.
Yeah.
very.
My toes grew 4 inches, you know.
Somebody could write a book and it would be number one on the comedy
Holy
list. I don't know.
Forget about it. Forget
Yeah, exactly.
That's
That's
exactly
my
it.
perspective. Exactly. Yeah.
about
They
it.
want to shut us down. It was like, we kept things open. We went viral. What we met, and then people who were more afraid of it were stayed home. Thankfully for Zoom, it worked. That's actually how we found our interviews again. Is we were able, because we did radio, but couldn't find a gig around here. Not that I'm going to drive 4 hours for a part-time radio thing when I've got a church and we're teaching. But this Zoom thing, really, we were able to have all of our guests back on from back in Maine and the radio, and then more. So I think it was a godsend, you know.
Great.
Oh, that sounds weird, but
No, look, it's what you make of it.
that's
You
right.
know?
Yeah.
It's entirely what you make of it. You know, I hate, and it all ends up sounding trite and corny and overstated, but it is true. You know, the worst challenges, if you can meet them and you can come out strong, then you come out stronger. And some things, crush people and they can't find their way back. And I don't know that that's a judgment call of, oh,
No.
I'm better than somebody who can't do it. But I've been lucky enough to find my way through my mother's suicide, all that, it's just, you just keep looking for the good and recognize it when it's there and celebrate it and share it.
Yeah. It's good.
If that sounds corny, forgive me, but
No, it's true. It's true. And then we can help other people who may be going through more difficult times that way. I mean, we really, in America, we need to remember how blessed we are. There's a lot of third world nations and folks who go through things that, because of the lack of infrastructure and medical facilities and poor healthcare. I know we need more work with ours here in America, but it's really doesn't compare to being in some of those places that, I want to go to the Positano release that you did, Will. And I think it's a microcosm of how aligned your music is to the emotions. We talked about that. But last night we were playing some of your pieces. I think Wedding Song is on there. Is that one of the titles?
I don't listen to my music, so I don't know.
You better find one.
So I'm playing it, and we're playing, we're playing Peanuts, we're playing cards with our son, and he's really enjoyed it. He's quite a aficionado of music and all things artsy. And he says, boy, I really like that. He says, sounds like a wedding song. I said, that's the title. So
Seriously?
yeah, I'm not kidding. And I
No,
wasn't like,
He said, this is
shooting the
beautiful.
dark.
I think this is.
sounds like a wedding song. Which
Wait
I
a
think the
second,
album really
Will.
gets more
Huh?
about that.
Will, isn't that about a chapel in Noche, or where is that, right above Positano?
No, Chele,
Okay,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So just to share that with you, I know that we're circling back to individual pieces in your release, but I need to tell you that, and hopefully it's a blessing to you.
Hey, listen, I want to tell a story, which is
Go for
not, it's pretty tangential,
Yeah.
but not, I mean, here's Positano songs,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
There's Positano. To give you some idea of how far integrated we are with, I mean, we can walk down to the village at the bottom, the rest of it, and be hugged, by 7 or 8 people that, are happy that we're back. There's a time where there's a little, Anita has a little grocery store across from where we stay at the Russo's house. And we went in after having not been there for a couple of years. This is a number of years hence or past. And I noticed that she was very short with us and grumpy. And I was like, well, everybody has a bad day. But we kept getting that. And it's like, God, what did I do? Maybe I didn't pay them, 2 years ago that they're still angry. And this went on a few days and was really just disturbing because these were warm, wonderful people that when we would arrive we'd hug and just anyway, we're walking up to dinner at Da Vincenzo and she's walking down the street. I mean, the road is really the walkway for Positano, so everybody sees each other there. we're going up, she's coming down, and we're getting the cold thing again.
Hmm.
And then suddenly she stopped. And then this smile, like bigger than her ears from side to side, smile. And we figured it out. Susan had always had, long dark hair all the way down to her butt.
Mhm.
Now she's got this short, blonde, spiky thing going on. And she thought I had a new girl. And
Oh
she
my
was
gosh.
Oh.
so
Like
she
Susan,
was,
right?
she was defending
Snarling.
Susan
Defending
and
Susan.
pissed off as hell at me that, I picked up some, chick.
Punker.
And but she figured it out. And then it was just like she wouldn't move for 5 minutes, just hugging and crying and just looking at Susan and laughing and crying. It was like, oh, we really are Positaners. I mean,
Yeah.
we really are part of the town. Anyways, lovely story.
That is
Yeah,
such a
that's
cool, that
great.
is cool. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
So, Steve, you mentioned that you're just beginning stages of this new piece with Will and gestation. How long before the labor's over and you can deliver this baby?
I don't know. Will and I were talking about scheduling some time in the studio, so that's kind of where we're at.
So you go up to Vermont?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I love Brattleboro.
Brattleboro.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah. We lived in Winooski when I was just 2 years old. And my niece grew up and or raised her kids in Brattleboro area. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
so when you fly up there, stop off and get me out of Michigan because I miss New England. I
Yeah,
miss.
take us with
Not right now because
I'll throw a rope out the door and see what you can do.
All right, great. Well, this has been so good,
So
you
much
guys. Love to reconnect some other time. Maybe when this album is done, we can do it again. If you don't mind, I want to pray for this project, pray for you guys. We always just close in a little simple word of prayer on our show. And thanks again for coming on board. It worked out. I've got to admit, when I got an email back from you, Will, an initial contact, I'm like, wow, that was really quick. Somebody that well known connected with us. And we've had some fairly well known guests, but usually it's a hit or miss or kind of bumpy, trying to work things out, negotiate. And I'm like, man, you were so familiar and down to earth with your response. I'm thinking, does he really know it's somebody he doesn't know? You said, I'm hiking up in the mountains in Arizona and we're doing this and that. So we go back and forth. I'm like, I have to be honest, I think somebody hacked Will, and this is not the real Will. Well, here you are.
Here you
Seriously.
are, yeah.
It's really cool. And
We appreciate you guys.
I work on instinct alone, and I don't know. I don't say yes to everything.
no,
Believe
you
me.
don't, and that's what kind of blew me away too. It's like,
Yeah.
But no, I get a vibe, and after a billion years of being, in the public eye,
yeah,
you get good at it.
yeah,
in a hurry.
that's good. Because
Yeah.
we, after over 200, I said we're batting pretty good. We've only had a few that have. Well, I don't want to do that, or you've got to build your audience bigger. I think the Bellamy brothers told us that they had an agent. I said, well, someday you're going to be coming to us and you want to be on. And
But I go on instinct entirely.
Yeah.
I get a vibe off of something. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun. I like these people.
yeah, that's how we all.
And I have to say no to a lot of things.
Sure,
But
like anybody.
I've gotten really good at that.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, and even in the middle of things, I think you were like, there was a little bit of reticence. We had a good back and forth, but it's rewarding because I think recently we had an author set up, a young adult author, great book. I was reading the book to the kids. It was going to go on. She saw it was faith, family, friends. She thought I was going to preach to her, and I couldn't do anything to convince her. I said, watch some of our interviews. This is about you and your book, and your talent. And we don't judge people either way. Anyway, I just want to thank you both for getting on and for we don't exist. Hey, look at us, but to share the stories of what people are doing in music and writing and a host of other things. I mean, we've had veterans, beauty pageant queen one time that was on, who's also a lobster fisherman and a mother of three. So everything.
What up in Maine or what?
Oh yeah, you got to look her up. Rebecca Hodgson. She may even watch it now. But she's on beauty pageants. She fishes on lobster boat. Rebecca Hodgson, Hodgson. You could write a song about her.
That name is familiar. I wonder if
Oh.
we actually have talked.
Maybe, I don't know, but
Maybe.
she's a go-getter with the, mains, a lot of rural America has, 4-H, but, Grange.
The
Grange. It's something that's dying. We need to resurrect back, but she's ahead of, or works with the Grange there in Jonesboro, Maine, and does an
And
amazing
she's a
job.
lobster fisherman.
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
a
well,
beef kind of
it's
woman.
still a big part of Vermont too.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good to
You know,
hear.
it's a weird thing, you know, how many people go from California to Vermont?
Yeah, I was gonna say, both ends of
But
the,
you know, someday we'll talk about, you know,
Yeah.
my schooling here in Massachusetts and then the discovery of Wyndham Hill Farm and Hugh and Mary Folsom and that home away from home and
Yeah.
actually establishing a home that I needed at the time. Those are things we can talk about someday too.
let's do that. And
Great.
we'd love to reconnect. Just give us a caller. We've got, April's pretty full, but this summer,
No, you call me when if
I
you
will.
want to. I don't, you know, yeah.
we're gonna head to Ireland in June, so we're gonna take.
At my age, I'm gonna forget it the moment we get up.
And Steve, I'd love to, individually.
This guy in the upper left corner, by the way, who is
Yeah.
that guy?
But that guy up there, yeah.
Yeah, who's that?
It's his dad.
It says
He's-
dad.
Yeah.
He's our dad, so.
I share the Zoom with my daughter.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's sweet. Wow. Well, let's say the word of prayer. We'll let you guys go to your own, whatever you got going today. Thank you, Father, so much for Will and for Steve. What a great time we've had. I wonder how this would go, doing two people at once. And yet, of course, their interests are related, working together. But this has been so wonderful, Father. And I thank you so much. We can reconnect again and do a part two, either together or separately. Lord, bless their lives and minister to them. And continue to pour out in and through them, Lord, the work that they've done and more of it that would bless other people and impact their lives. And really, in an emotional healing way, there's so much brokenness in humanity, Father, that it's hard to access. And sometimes, not just sometimes, I think a lot of times, and we sell ourselves short and not taking advantage of this kind of music. We need to allow that music to just play over our souls. And not just get a message, but to let it do its work and break us down to a place where we receive some healing and a place for grace, as Steve has said. Thank you, Lord. We just praise you. The blessing on these guys today and their families and their loves and their life. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Bless you guys. We'll reconnect again.
Amen.
Have a good one. Amen. Love you.